And closing out the prelims, we got Jack Shore versus Makwan and Amirkhani. And Jack Shore is making a return to 145 pounds. He's looking to bounce back after a loss last year to Ricky Simone. And coming back from losses is part of the game, but for Jack Shore, he had never experienced defeat going into his last fight. He had won 28 fights in a row, dating back to his amateur career, was 16-0 as a pro. And hopefully he has a good support system and he's mentally prepared coming into this fight. And he did decide to mix it up, and he's moving up to 145 pounds. He hasn't fought in a while, and he did have 7 pro fights at featherweight, so I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue for him. And I know that he did have a fight scheduled against Kyler Phillips last year at 135, but had a knee injury, pulled out, and I don't know if it was a case of him gaining weight by being injured or wanting to fight in the UK and only being able to fight a 145er, but I don't know if he's planning to move to 145 permanently or this is a one-off, but Makwan and Amirkhani is a fighter coming off a couple losses in a row and lost 4 or 5, so I'm sure Shore feels pretty confident he can go in there and do the business. And Makwan, he's hanging on to his UFC career by a thread. He's in a must-win scenario on Saturday. His last 2 fights and 4 of his last 5, he just did not perform well. And skill-wise, we've seen what Amirkhani could do. He's dangerous. 7 UFC wins. He has some early finishes. It's just he has a huge hole in the cardio department, and fighters have seemingly figured out how to deal with this style. So at UFC 286, Amirkhani, he is taking on a guy that's moving from 135 to 145, so he's probably going to be a little bit bigger than him. And it's maybe a good time to catch Jack Shore coming off the first loss of his career, and Amirkhani might could get the upset, but personally, I think it's a really difficult matchup, and Jack Shore is a big favorite for a reason. When you look at Amirkhani on the feet, he really doesn't offer too much. Early on, he does have that explosiveness factor where he can close the distance, and we've seen him throw those flying knees and catch guys early and then catch them in the front chokes. But, now that guys have seen that early on in the fight, I think it's going to be really hard for him to land that type of attack. And long term on the feet, he has okay footwork and movement, but he really only uses the jab. He doesn't have power. Very hittable guy, kind of really below average striking, if you ask me. And his wrestling is really good. I mean, he has great timing. He could take you down and hold you down. And early in that first round, when he has great cardio, he can attack those front chokes. And he has a lot of different type of front chokes he can finish with, and has submitted a lot of guys. But if he can't get you out of there early, his gas tank has just really not been there for him in recent fights. And he's a tough dude. I mean, we saw him go all 3 rounds against Edson Barbosa, get dropped a lot of times, but definitely doesn't weather the storm, or doesn't have the ability to keep that same pressure if fighters weather his storm, and slows down majorly. At 34 years old, I don't see that really changing. For Jack Shore, he's way better on the feet. He has really good footwork. He has a nice jab, fast hands. I think he has some of the most underrated boxing and footwork in the UFC, and he's a pretty decent striker. He just doesn't have that power or high-level athleticism. And then his defensive wrestling is a little questionable. That's what we saw really, lose him the fight against Ricky Simone. He got taken down and dominated on the ground, eventually got submitted. But he is a good grappler himself. I don't think that Makwan's going to have that ability to just big brother him like Ricky Simone did. And Jack Shore has good offensive wrestling, and when he can get to the back, he's very good at finishing from there as well. So I just feel as if potentially Makwan could hit a takedown or 2, but Shore's not going to accept that bottom position. He's going to make Makwan work, and eventually he's going to start to get his striking going. I think he's going to start to back up Makwan, touch him up, get Makwan to start shooting some bad takedowns, and I think he's going to end up exposing his back to Jack Shore, Makwan, and Amirkhani, and getting submitted either in that second or third round. So I'm going to go with Jack Shore via second round submission.